I'd like to apologize in advance. It's rather warm in here, so I've got the air conditioning and the fan on to circulate some air. So excuse the background noise. There's not much I can do about it. After 5 days of waiting and checking my email repeatedly to find out what happened, I still don't know if I got the job. My friend was supposed to have met with the board this week, and one would think that one might notify one's friend whether or not they got a job. I don't know. My friend has some stuff. It may be old resentments. It may be that she is pretty much of a hermit and thinks of herself rather as a cyborg. It might be a little touch of Asperger's, or it may just be complete self absorption and forgetting that anything else on the planet exists. But I really don't think she is at all aware of how excruciating the last few days have been, waiting to find out whether or not I got the job. I don't feel safe asking her. She took out the loan that paid for the trailer I live in that I'm paying back at $50 a month. She also bought the truck that I drive that I'm paying her back at $25 a month. So I do not feel safe asking. It could be she's just being general managery ish and doesn't feel that she has to notify the candidates that didn't get the job. However, is it wrong of me to think that when you're friends with somebody this long, a person you lived with for 3.5 years, that maybe they might tell you one way or the other? So the whole cold impersonal thing comes back and slaps me on the face, which is one reason why we're not together anymore. So the whole checking the email thing has been torture, and I'm not using superlatives. It has been emotionally really painful for me not to hear back. I've had one of the worst struggles with depression that I've gone through in a very long time. I felt this seduction to give up and to feel worthless and that my life is a total failure. In other words, I'm battling with the whole self hatred thing again, which I do pretty good at because mostly I ignore it, try not to give it any energy, and go on with my work. And my work has consisted of taking apart the greenhouse in front of my travel trailer, which was physically really painful, and then coming in here in the house and cleaning up the kitchen, which got really cluttered over the winter because it's difficult to wash dishes. The kitchen is a lot easier to navigate now and a lot cleaner, and it's a real hopeful sign. And tomorrow I go out there and do battle with the dishes out in the yard because putting running water on in this trailer causes leaks on the bedroom floor in the back, so we don't use running water in here. So this whole feeling like a failure thing, that job, working at a radio station, producing on-air public service announcements, working on community calendars, doing interviews, writing news, working with the automated programming system, so on and so forth, basically acting as a 20-hour-a-week assistant to the general manager with operations and programming and so on. It meant a lot to me. And there's a very dark and cold voice in the back of my head saying, that was your last chance. I'm 55 years old. My teeth are rotting, and my voice is just about at the point where it's not broadcast quality. In fact, I think it's gone past the point with the lisping and the inability to pronounce words correctly and enunciate clearly. So it feels a lot like one more thing has been stripped from me. I've had stripped from me my ability to have community, my goats, my daughter, my ability to live in a brick and mortar house instead of a vehicle, and now my ability to do radio. It has been an excruciating 5 days. Added to that was having to resign from Atheism TV, which was necessary because I really don't want to be associated with what I perceive to be exploitive gutter humor, mocking people for factors they really can't control, like physical appearance, gender, disability, that sort of thing, and the fanboy trolling and flame wars. I really want to do real journalism. Now, you can say my standards are too high and I'm being too uppity, but I don't want the professional community to see me associated with stuff that doesn't have to do with journalistic ethics. It would have been an opportunity to have an influence on the atheism YouTube community and perhaps even expand it out farther than that. I see that people don't even understand what a genderqueer is. They mistake it for gay. They've never considered issues of gender before, which is probably why there's so much misogyny, sexism, such a knee jerk reaction to the concept of feminism. And it would have been nice to have been able to expose people to ideas they've never thought of before. But it occurs to me that most of the fanboy troll types don't want to be exposed to anything new, don't want to learn. They want to be self righteous bricks and insult people and torment them. And I really don't want that coming into my reality. It also would have been a good opportunity to network. I mean, I'm already buddies with the Mudbrooker and Goxter. Zonstar friended me on Facebook as a result of me being involved in Atheism TV. And I feel like my voice is being silenced. The Women in Secularism conference that just happened, I couldn't go because I didn't have money, and they only issued scholarships to college students, which means people who are already middle class and or above and or have are young enough to be able to aspire to middle class. So my voice was silenced, and that means the rural voice of atheism was silenced. The genderqueer voice of atheism was silenced because there aren't a whole lot of us who can go to conferences like this. So I worry how I can participate in the conversation. I see Zinnia Jones has gotten a free thought blog. That's always hard for me to say. And I really respect Zinnia's work. I believe Zinnia's been on YouTube for about 2 years now. And the evolution of Zinnia's channel has been really interesting. Zinnia's in ranks with people like Natalie Reed now and ZOMG Chris and the like, which is worthy. Zinnia has applied oneself very well to being consistent. True, the earliest videos are, well, some of them are very funny. But Zinnia has done consistent research, has worked on current affair news stories, has done a little bit of investigative journalism. I think some of it just fell into Zinnia's lap, but has been a consistent voice. Zinnia doesn't have fancy editing software. Zinnia sits at a table, looks at a camera, and speaks a script. I can do that. I just need to do that. There's a fundraiser for Atheists Helping the Homeless coming up, and I pretty much just barged in. I asked Bionic Dance, who didn't know what I was talking about, interestingly enough. Then I asked Joe Zemecki, who is now in contact with me. And then I talked to Trolling Without God, who has invited me to participate in the first hour on Skype in the conversation. Since I am a person who is mobile homeless, living in an RV in a parking lot, and an atheist and rural, that I ought to just invite myself into the conversation and participate because I don't think a lot of people know what it's like to be homeless. So, I mean, I'm not going to get on a soapbox or anything, but there are issues about being homeless and atheist that I see that I don't think a lot of other people around me see, like the indoctrination by the churches in the so called faith based charities. And believe me, if you're homeless in the United States, you're going to be inundated with Jesus people. So I would just like an opportunity to participate. Again, to be part of the voice in the conversation from a perspective that isn't usually heard. Which brings me back to talking about Zinnia and Atheism TV and the whole thing about what makes a channel successful, and that is having a singular experience. And I do. I don't know if I know any other homeless atheists or any genderqueer atheists who are broadcasting on YouTube. I don't see a lot of feminist atheists that are coming from my experience. I see a new sort of neo-feminism that I don't really understand, and it sounds a lot like bumper stickers and manifestos, but it doesn't really sound like the feminism I know. And queer rights issues and poverty and do it yourself and sustainability. I have a lot to offer the YouTube community, particularly the atheist YouTube community, that's pretty unique. So I think I need to focus my channel on the issues that pertain to me but not exclusive to me, that are universal issues, news stories, and so on about the issues that pertain to my life that don't get a lot of media coverage and are really pertain to atheism in ways that aren't being discussed, particularly by larger channels. The other thing, of course, is mental health disabilities. Schizophrenic Queen is beginning to talk about this. Some of our supporters are beginning to talk about this. So we're introducing the idea of not stigmatizing people with mental health issues by calling debate opponents crazy lunatic, blah, blah, blah. But there's a whole other layer of this, and that is skepticism about the medical industrial complex and the systems and institutions that are in place to quote unquote handle people with mental health issues that are really dysfunctional, very corrupt, and abusive, and totally counterproductive to care. So I need to discuss that stuff too. It doesn't get a platform, it doesn't get a podium. And I can talk about this because I know about it and I'm invested in researching about it. I'm also referring back to Atheism TV. I'm invested in trying to maintain a higher standard of discourse than some of the troll war flaming stuff that I see going on, which seems to be a knee jerk reaction, a line of first defense. The first thing people think of is to be insulting and cruel and look for a weakness and exploit it to inflict pain. So, trying to keep a fence around my channel. I mean, anybody's welcome to come in. Why would I let total strangers come to my channel and tear it to shreds? I don't owe them that. What I do owe stuff to is low income people, atheists, genderqueers, people with mental health disabilities, people with physical disabilities, people who are leaving the church and don't know where to go. I would be so turned off and repulsed by some of what's calling itself atheism, but is really just trolling and cruelty, that even though I had grave doubts about my faith, I would have gone running back to the church because at least it felt safer than the stuff I'm seeing going on sometimes on YouTube. I'm not talking about a walled garden where I'm only talking to myself and preaching to the choir. I don't want to do that. But I do want a standard by which I create a place where people are respected for their inherent worth and dignity and not exploited because they might have weaknesses, because everybody does. A place where people are challenged to rational discourse, to critical thinking. We're not trained in that. I'm not. So I would like to create space, and I think I already have begun to create space, where people can stretch out and explore and examine things without trolling and cyber stalking and ugh. Again, back to Zinnia. Zinnia's been very consistent in producing videos. Now, it looks to me like Zinnia might be more affluent than I and might have a more stable way of living than I, but Zinnia produces videos on a consistent and regular basis. And I need to commit to doing that as much as possible. It's not that I'm making excuses. I'm really physically exhausted. I'm in a lot of pain. I've been doing a lot of really stressful work. I'm battling my own challenges about my physiological and emotional response to not knowing if I got that job, even though the board met last week, and having to assume I didn't get that job, knowing I can't move to that city unless I have a decent job. I could have made it in that town. I don't dare move to that town now. There's nothing there for rent that's affordable on $700 a month. I would die there. So I'm still trapped here. It's been a horrible 5 days realizing that I could end my life in this parking lot alone. I'm hoarding the money that was sent in hopes that I can use it as a nest egg to get out of here. Now the question is where to go. Albuquerque is expensive. A not any safer than this RV park in Albuquerque would cost me $100 more a month. I really can't afford that, and I really detest Albuquerque. So I've got to figure out what to do because I can't move to my friend's town, not without that job. And there aren't jobs like this job at the radio station just running around much. They're scarce. They're very, very rare. I'm not saying I'm giving up. I'm saying I'm starting to explore what my alternatives are because I can't stay here, but I can't leave. Which brings me to an idea. You know, I said something in that other video that I want to do a fundraiser. I have an idea for not a craft project, a real art project. I see ZOMG Chris selling her paintings. I see Dark Matter. He makes those beautiful sketches. He did a wonderful one of Carlin, and he did a beautiful one of Hitchens. I have an idea. I'm not nearly as accomplished as Dark Matter, but I have an idea, and I will let you know when it's ready, believe me, so that I can sell some art made out of recycled materials, so it won't cost me for supplies. Sell them on eBay to try to raise some funds so that I can get out of here, because this ain't flying. It was a hard 5 days. I'm still a little shocky and dealing with stuff like physically weak, hard to move, dizzy, because it was real physical depression. And I'm still packing to move. Don't know where I'm going, but I'm packing to move. Thank you for your support and your time. Bye.